project management challenges in terms of when the project started and this 8-month time frame and all the many things that had to happen within that time frame, and that those were their own projects with their own challenges that they had going on, and their own there was this deadline out there for multiple projects to come together and merge and for several things to go live on one date.
July 1st, 2014.
Right. So I want to talk about that and kind of wrap up that conversation in terms of you had project scope, project time frame, and budget, and then to kind of recap on what you saw as the critical success factors for this project.
Okay. I think it's important to note, I mentioned it earlier, the budget was never defined, other than we knew President Crow, the president of the university, said, we're making this happen. And obviously everyone's taking their orders on down and say, okay, we're going to make this happen. But even with that, as I mentioned earlier, we had to narrow the scope from, our initial was to be a help desk for financial aid and other stakeholders. And then they decided to remove the financial aid piece. Part of that was because once we started running the numbers in the budget, and once the powers that be that control the budget started seeing what it was going to cost us just in resource of staff, that kind of number, just in the location of trying to find a place to do 100, and what would that at that point. That's part of the reason they determined, let's hold off on financial aid. I think it's important because in a project that can throw, every project I've done and every project I've done since then, most of the time everybody wants to say, don't start a project unless you have a budget defined. And I wasn't worried because I knew the executive management, as well as the president, had made a decision, we're going to do this. What I didn't know was how big a scope was it going to be. And I think that was the part that I had to be. My work breakdown schedule was in a constant flux of time. I mean, most people, they get all really concerned if they, in their mind, had vision this task needed to be completed by this time because this was hanging on to it. That this can't start without that. And I think part of a project manager's job is to try to be flexible in a way that, okay, yeah, I know it would have been ideal for this to be finished before this starts, but what can I do to make sure that this can go ahead and start if it's a task while I'm still working on this piece here, for example.
And would you say your prior experience with Create already having that help?
I think as a director, prior years at W.P. Carey as a director of IT, I had come to realize many projects would have never got finished if you couldn't be a little bit of flexibility in that project and not let it stop you. Because that's a problem. If you're not flexible, then you can get stuck waiting for something, and then the project never, ever gets completed. I didn't have that luxury because on top of me was, it's starting.
Right. And I'm thinking what's key, it seems like, in hindsight, we get to look brilliant, right? And analyzing things in hindsight. But in what you said, it's starting on X date. But see, it sounds like you guys were continually refining what was the it.
Yes, well, who were the stakeholders that we were going to support?
Right. And it's like, what was that the exact scope of what was actually, delivered and operational on X date? That is where your ability to be flexible, and also in being flexible, you were able to show commitment, right? I mean, you
Right.
weren't just like, oh, sure, we can just change dates, and we can just,
Right.
that. Some people think that's what flexibility means, and it's when you say the word flexible, what I hear is you had the prior experience of actually being able to go, okay, if I do this, then that means I have to do this, which means I have to do this, which means I have to do this, and I can still deliver. I can still deliver what I'm committing to. Now, what you're committing to, got shaped, and the shape of it got refined over time.
Continue to be refined. Exactly
right.
I knew I didn't have any choices on what we going live on. That go live date was there. The flexibility had to be in getting to that. What can I do to remove any obstacles, or what can I be flexible in? We encouraged one another by always saying, we're going to make it work out. It'll work out. Instead of getting excited and anxious, because I think it's a challenge for project managers to get anxious all of a sudden when one little thing is not sort of in its slot, and you have to really fight that, because anxiety can be a killer to a project.
Yeah.
The same way, if you're pessimistic, you're going to have a terrible time being a project manager. You have to be optimistic, and not optimistic as of being foolish, but optimistic in the sense of, I think it'll allow you to be creative and to look for opportunities to overcome those obstacles that are in front of you. If you're optimistic, if you're pessimistic, you get bogged down in sort of the details of something, and you can cause a project to freeze. I didn't have that as a... We're going to be a little slower on answering calls, but the difference is people are going to know that we do care. And it was a huge success. Within the first 2 or 3 months, the accolades, the customer satisfaction reports that were coming back was, wow, this is hugely different. And the guy really cares. This is the first time I talked to him, but he's knowing that I had an issue last week. We're using the tools now to deliver a better customer service. It's one thing to have them. It's another thing, are you using them? People all day long go to Salesforce and say they got this great big product, but if you're not using it to your advantage and delivering the customer service, because that's what it was supposed to be for,
right?
It's just a tool that's not being used. So use it. Use it for your advantage to create that customer service. So we met our objectives. Our big phase two, whatever you want to call it, was new location, bringing on financial aid, and then whatever other infrastructure we needed at that time. Fortunately, this time I wasn't having to deal with enterprise systems.